Hey guys, tonight we're staying up way past bedtime because the dark has something to show us that daylight tried to hide. I'm sitting here in the hush of my little observatory room, the kind of place where the walls are lined with star charts and the air smells faintly of old coffee and ozone from the equipment. Outside the window, the night is thick, velvet black, but inside my headphones there's a low thrum, like a heartbeat that isn't mine. You probably won't make it to the end of this one. The mind starts to fray when it brushes the edges of what I'm about to share. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious who else is awake when the stars feel watchful. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's descent together. It started yesterday morning, though morning feels like the wrong word for what I witnessed. I'm an amateur solar observer, nothing fancy, just a modest telescope on the roof, a coronagraph I built from scavenged parts, and a laptop that's seen better decades. Every dawn I point the rig east, sip burnt coffee, and watch the sun crest the horizon like it has for the last 5 billion years. Fusion at 15 million degrees Celsius, hydrogen smashing into helium, a roaring sphere 109 times wider than Earth. That's the anchor, the fact I cling to when the universe starts whispering nonsense. But yesterday, the sun didn't rise the way it should. I noticed it first as a temperature drop. The air on the rooftop went from crisp autumn bite to something colder, almost refrigerated, in the space of a breath. My skin prickled. The hairs on my arms lifted like they were trying to escape. The light was wrong too. Golden, yes, but flat, matte, as if someone had dialed down the contrast on the world. I leaned into the eyepiece. The solar disk hung there, perfectly round, chromosphere flaring in delicate pinks and violets, but motionless. No limb-darkening shift, no granulation churn. The sun had simply paused. Curiosity tugged at me first. I checked the clock on my phone. 6:42 a.m., same as every other morning. I checked the weather station, 11 degrees Celsius, no cloud cover, wind 0. I checked the telescope alignment, everything calibrated. Yet the sun refused to climb. It was a photograph, not a star. My pulse quickened, a soft drum against my ribs. I told myself it was an optical illusion, maybe a superior mirage bending the light, though I knew mirages don't freeze plasma. I snapped a photo, then another, then started a time lapse. The seconds ticked, but the sun did not. Fear arrived on little cat feet. I felt it in the silence. No birds, no distant traffic, not even the hum of the refrigerator 2 floors below. The world had inhaled and forgotten to exhale. I zoomed the coronagraph, hunting for sunspots, for any motion at all. Nothing. The photosphere looked painted, a still life of incandescent gas. I remembered a myth I'd read once, whispered by ancient Sumerians, that the sun god Shamash sometimes halts to listen to the prayers of the dead. I laughed then, a brittle sound that echoed off the rooftop gravel. But the laugh died when I noticed my shadow. It stretched behind me, crisp and black, yet it didn't waver with the breeze that should have been there. The light was coming from everywhere and nowhere, a uniform glow with no source direction. Awe settled over me like dust. I lowered the telescope and simply stared. The sun, our anchor, our constant, had become a hole in the sky wearing sunlight as a mask. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know how fragile the rhythm is. 12 minutes, my laptop later confirmed. 12 minutes where the Earth should have rotated 0.05 degrees, where the sun's apparent position should have shifted by the width of a moon. But it didn't. The continents kept turning, oblivious, yet the light stayed pinned. I stood there until the chill seeped into my bones, until the first bird, confused, off schedule, chirped somewhere far below. Only then did the sun lurch, almost imperceptibly, and resume its ancient crawl. I stumbled downstairs, fingers numb around the mug I no longer remembered holding. The coffee had gone cold, a skin forming on the surface like a miniature ice sheet. I opened the time-lapse on my screen. Frame after frame of golden stasis. then a single jitter where motion returned. I rewound, froze on the moment of resumption. There, at the edge of the disk, a flicker, too brief for human eyes, but the camera caught it. A pulse, black against the brilliance, shaped like nothing in any spectrum chart. Not a prominence, not a flare. Geometry that hurt to look at directly, angles folding inward on themselves. I zoomed until pixels dissolved into noise, and still the shape whispered, "Not of this star, not of this light." I should have uploaded the footage right then, screamed it across every forum, every feed. But something in me hesitated, a primal instinct older than language. Instead, I sat in the dark, fan whirring its lullaby, and listened to the replay. Over and over, the same 12 minutes of stolen dawn. Each loop, the silence felt deeper, as if the recording was teaching the room how to forget sound. My reflection in the black screen looked thinner, eyes ringed with questions I wasn't ready to ask. Outside, the Real sun climbed higher, indifferent, painting the walls in ordinary gold. But I knew better now. The fire had blinked, and in that blink, something else had looked back. The day unfolds in a haze, the ordinary world rushing past like it never missed a beat. But I carry that frozen dawn inside me, a cold splinter in my chest. I try to shake it off, stepping into the kitchen where the microwave hums its familiar beep, reheating yesterday's leftovers. The steam rises in lazy curls, carrying the scent of garlic and regret, but even that feels muted, as if the air molecules are still catching up. I glance at the window. The sun is high now, pouring warmth through the glass, yet my fingertips tingle with remembered chill. I boot up the laptop again, the screen flickering to life with that soft electronic whine, and pull up the time-lapse files. Frame by frame, I dissect it, zooming into the pixels until they fracture into rainbows of artifact noise. The sun's diameter, 1.392 million kilometers, a fact etched in every astronomy textbook. But here it mocks me with its stasis. Curiosity drives me deeper. I sync the footage with global solar observatories, SOHO, SDO, the ones beaming data straight from orbit. NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory captures the sun in extreme ultraviolet, wavelengths like 304 angstroms, painting coronal loop in fiery reds. I download the feeds from yesterday, time-stamped to the second, and overlay my amateur capture. At first, alignment. The sun's magnetic field lines twist in predictable arcs, plasma flowing at 1 million kilometers per hour. Then, at 6:42 a.m. my local time, adjusted for UTC, the data flatlines. No error codes, no satellite glitch. The sun's output, its relentless fusion heartbeat, registers as a straight line for precisely 720 seconds. 12 minutes. I cross-reference with ground stations. Mauna Loa, Big Bear Solar Observatory. Same void. But the world didn't notice. No blackouts. No eclipses reported. No frantic headlines. Billions went about their commutes, their coffees, blind to the halt. I lean back in my chair, the leather creaking under me like old bones, and let the fan's hum wash over the room. It's a white noise barrier against the creeping quiet outside. Fear coils in now, slow and viscous, like oil seeping through cracks. What if this wasn't a pause, but a signal? I think of the speculative whispers in fringe astrophysics forums, parallel worlds bleeding through, where time dilates or contracts at the whim of unseen forces. Or worse, a cosmic entity, vast and indifferent, pressing pause on our star like a child with a toy. I recall the Aztec myth of Tonatiuh, the sun god demanding blood to keep moving across the sky. Perhaps we forgot our sacrifices, and this was his reminder, a momentary starvation. The thought sends a shiver up my spine. The room feels larger, the shadows in the corners thicker, as if they're listening. I dig further, pulling audio from solar radio telescopes. The sun speaks in static, bursts of Type 3 emissions from electron beams racing along magnetic fields. Normally a cacophony, like distant thunder mixed with whale song. But in those 12 minutes, the spectrum goes dead, flat as a becalmed sea. I play it back, headphones clamped tight, the absence roaring in my ears. Sensory deprivation, no crackle, no hiss, just a void that pulls at the mind. My breath echoes too loudly in the silence, ragged and uneven. I imagine the Earth's magnetosphere, usually buzzing with solar wind at 400 kilometers per second, suddenly starved. Did auroras fade? Did compasses waver? No reports, nothing. The anomaly hid in plain sight, cloaked in normalcy. Awe descends then, vast and hollow, expanding in my chest like the universe itself. I step outside, the afternoon heat pressing down, but I feel exposed under that blue dome. The sun beats on my skin, photons born 8 minutes ago in the core, yet yesterday they lied, hanging suspended. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know how thin the veil is between motion and eternity. I wander to the park nearby, grass crunching underfoot, dry and brittle despite the season. People laugh, dogs bark, a jogger's footsteps thump rhythmically, but I see the fragility. Each blade of grass, photosynthesizing chlorophyll capturing light that almost wasn't. I sit on a bench, the wood warm and splintery, and watch clouds scud across the sky. One shapes like a fractal, edges folding in on themselves, echoing that flicker in my footage. Back home, the evening creeps in, shadows lengthening with a reluctance that mirrors my own. I revisit the data, cross-checking with amateur networks. A few scattered posts on Reddit's r/astronomy, glitches in webcams, unexplained chills at dawn, but dismissed as due on lenses or faulty batteries. No one else captured the full 12 minutes. My rooftop perch, isolated and elevated, caught what satellites confirmed but humanity ignored. I enhanced the audio void, boosting gain until distortion creeps in. There, buried in the nothing, a faint pulse, not solar, not terrestrial. Geometry and sound. Angles that don't add up, like a non-Euclidean whisper from the heart of the star. Speculative cosmology speaks of brains, multidimensional membranes brushing ours, causing ripples. Maybe this was a graze, a cosmic finger trailing across our reality. The night deepens, my room lit only by the screen's glow, casting blue hues on the walls like underwater light. The fan spins tirelessly, its blades a blur, mimicking the sun's absent rotation. Fear lingers, a low hum in my veins, but awe tempers it, turning dread into reverence. I save the files, encrypt them with a password that's part myth, part math, shamash divided by pi. Sleep eludes me. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling where star stickers from childhood glow faintly. The same static from the recording seems to echo in my head, a callback to that rooftop silence. Outside, the moon rises, borrowing light from a sun that betrayed us. I wonder if it noticed, if its tides felt the tug of a paused orbit. The world spins on, but I've glimpsed the gears grinding to a halt. Morning comes again, too soon, the alarm beeping insistently. I drag myself up, the air heavy with dew scent wafting through the cracked window. Coffee brews, its gurgle a mundane anchor, but my mind orbits the anomaly. I check news feeds, stock market steady, weather nominal, no solar flares disrupting GPS. The halt was invisible, a secret shared only with machines and me. Curiosity reignites as I plot the data on graphs, lines flatlining like an EKG in a rest. The exact duration, 720 seconds, divides neatly into cosmic constants, Planck time multiples, or perhaps a frequency inverted. I tune into live solar feeds, the sun churning normally now, prominences looping like fiery serpents. But the fear resurfaces when I notice patterns in the resumption. The pulse I caught. It repeats in microbursts post-event, hidden in noise. A signal, perhaps, from whatever caused the stop. Mythic echoes. The Norse sun chariot driven by soul, halting when wolves nip too close. Speculation grips me. What if this was a warning, a prelude to longer darkness? Awe swells as I contemplate scale. Our sun, one of 100 billion in the Milky Way, pausing like a skipped heartbeat in the galaxy's rhythm. I don't think we're alone in noticing. Something vast tuned in during those minutes. The day blurs, sensory details sharpening my unease. The cool keyboard under fingers, the distant hum of traffic like blood in veins. I isolate the pulse, loop it softly. It vibrates the speakers, a texture like silk over gravel. Continuity pulls me forward. That same static from the first night now feels alive, probing. The pulse lingers in my mind like an afterimage burned into the retina, that faint geometry from the resumption flickering even when I close my eyes. I spend the evening poring over the enhanced audio, the laptop's fan joining my own in a duet of mechanical breaths, the air in the room growing stale with the scent of heated circuits. Outside, the city hums its nocturnal symphony, distant sirens, the occasional bark of a dog, but it all feels distant, muffled through the veil of what I've uncovered. I amplify the signal further, using freeware spectrum analyzers, plotting frequencies in hertz against time. The sun's radio emissions typically range from 10 kHz to 10 GHz, a broadband chatter from coronal mass ejections and flares, grounding us in the physics of plasma waves. But this pulse defies the bands. It dips into infrasound, below 20 Hz, where vibrations are felt more than heard, rumbling through bones like an earthquake's precursor. Curiosity pulls me in, a gravitational tide I can't resist. I hook up external speakers, the kind with deep bass response, and play the isolated clip at low volume. The room vibrates subtly, the coffee mug on my desk rattling its handle against the saucer. The sound isn't sound. It's a texture, a silk-smooth undulation that warps the air pressure. I lean closer, ear to the cone, and there, whispers in the waveform. Not voices, not language, but shapes encoded in oscillation. Impossible geometries, triangles with four sides, spheres that invert upon themselves. I sketch them on a notepad, pencil scratching paper in the dim light, lines curving where they should be straight. The data suggests a fractal pattern, self-similar at every scale, like the Mandelbrot set but alive, pulsing with intent. I cross-reference with SETI archives, those vast databases of cosmic noise scanned for intelligence. Nothing matches, yet everything echoes, a signal from the void, masquerading as solar static. Fear creeps in as the night deepens, the window glass cool against my forehead when I press against it for relief. The pulse plays on loop, and now I feel it in my chest, syncing with my heartbeat until I can't tell where I end and it begins. The room's shadows stretch unnaturally, pooling in corners like ink spilled from another dimension. I think of the speculative horrors in quantum foam theories, bubbles of alternate realities popping in and out at Planck lengths, 10 to the power of -35 meters. What if the sun's pause tore a rift, letting through echoes from a brain where geometry isn't fixed, where angles devour light? Mythic parallels haunt me. The Greek void of chaos, primordial and formless, birthing gods from its endless churn. Perhaps this frequency is its breath, exhaled through our star, reshaping reality one wave at a time. I pause the playback, but the hum persists, a phantom vibration in my teeth, in the floorboards creaking without wind. I step away, pacing the creaky hardwood, the chills seeping up through socks worn thin. The fan whirs on, its blades slicing air into rhythmic pulses that mock the anomaly. Sensory overload. The metallic tang of ozone from the electronics, the faint dust motes dancing in the screen's glow, each one a miniature world oblivious to the unraveling. I dive back into the data, filtering the signal through noise reduction algorithms. Cleaner now, the geometries resolve, tesseracts unfolding in audio space, hypercubes whispering of dimensions we weren't meant to perceive. A scientific anchor tethers me, Doppler shifts in solar wind, velocities up to 800 kilometers per second, but here the frequency redshifts impossibly, as if the source is receding at light speed while standing still. I plot it on a graph, lines fractaling outward, and feel the fear solidify, a knot in my gut. What if listening invites it closer? The same static from the first night, that rooftop silence, now amplified into this chorus of the unreal. Awe overtakes me then, a cosmic vertigo that spins the room. I lie on the floor, staring up at the ceiling fan's lazy rotation, blades blurring like the sun's absent granulation. The pulse, when I resume it softly, fills the space with a hypnotic rhythm, lulling yet terrifying. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know the music of its seams, where voids sing in forbidden keys. Speculative cosmology posits multiverses stacked like pages, each with its own physics. Perhaps this is a bleed-through, a harmonic resonance from a neighboring sheet where stars are eyes, watching. I imagine ancient shamans hearing this in desert nights, carving petroglyphs of spiraling voids to ward it off. The sound textures the air, cool and viscous, like breathing underwater in a sea of dark matter. Hours blur. The clock ticks past midnight, its glow a pale imitation of dawn. I modulate the frequency upward into audible range, and it blooms into a choir. Ethereal, dissonant, geometries stacking in harmony that defies equal temperament. Fear lingers, but awe transmutes it, turning isolation into connection with something vaster. The window fogs with my breath, reflections distorting my face into angular unfamiliarity. I trace the pulse's origin, backtrack to the sun's core, where gravity crushes atoms at 270 G/cm superscript 3, but the signal emerges pristine, unwarped by density. Mythic undertones, the Egyptian Ra, ferrying through the underworld nightly, pausing to battle chaos serpents. Was our sun's halt a similar duel? The frequency the serpents hiss leaking through? The night wears on, sensory details anchoring the surreal. The fans hum blending with the pulse, creating a hybrid drone that vibrates the walls. I save iterations of the audio, labeling them with timestamps echoing the 12 minutes. Curiosity reignites as patterns emerge. The geometries repeat every 3.14 seconds, pi woven into the void's code. I experiment, piping the signal through visualization software, watching shapes bloom on screen, toroids twisting in declined bottles, surfaces with one side. Fear resurfaces when the software glitches, screen flickering with unsolicited fractals, as if the pulse is rewriting code. But awe prevails, a quiet expansion in my soul. Lying there, the carpet rough against my back, I let the sound wash over me, temperature dropping as if the void exhales cold. The same static, that initial dawn hush, now evolved into this symphony of the impossible. Outside, stars prick the sky, their light ancient and indifferent, pulses from eons past. I wonder if they too have paused, unheard frequencies waiting for ears attuned. Dawn approaches again, the horizon paling, but I remain in the dark, the pulse my companion. The room smells of sweat and electricity, textures of a vigil unbroken. I mute the speakers, yet the echo persists in my mind, geometries unfolding behind eyelids. The sun will rise, but now I know its light carries secrets, frequencies burrowed deep. The geometries linger in my ears long after I mute the speakers, a spectral aftertaste that colors the dawn's arrival. I watch the sun crest again, its light spilling through the blinds in slatted patterns that dance on the floor like hesitant fingers. The air is warmer today, carrying the faint aroma of rain-wet earth from an overnight shower, but the humidity clings to my skin, making every breath feel labored, borrowed. I avoid the laptop at first, opting instead for the bathroom mirror, steam from the shower fogging its surface into a milky void. As I wipe it clear with a towel, rough cotton against cold glass, I catch my reflection, but it's off, delayed by a fraction of a second, as if the light takes longer to bounce back. I blink, and the image sinks, but the unease settles in my gut like undigested night. Curiosity compels me to test it. I raise my hand slowly, watching the mirror me mimic, but there's a lag, imperceptible at first, then growing. The room's fluorescent buzzes overhead, a steady 60 Hz hum that's the scientific backbone of our wired world. electrons oscillating in filaments to chase away dark. Yet here, in this reflective plane, physics falters. I lean closer, breath clouding the glass anew, and trace the outline of my face. The reflection's edges blur, not with condensation, but with a fractal bleed, geometries from the pulse seeping into the silver backing. I step back, heart quickening to match the fans were in the other room, and notice my shadow on the tile floor. It stretches too long for the angle of light, pooling at the edges like mercury, defying the inverse square law of illumination. Shadows should dilute with distance, but this one concentrates, darker at the fringes. I move to the living room, where a full-length mirror leans against the wall, dust motes swirling in the morning beam like tiny galaxies. The pulse from last night echoes in my mind, that same static now manifesting visually. I stand before it, and the reflection stares back. Not me, exactly, but a version where the eyes hold a deeper void, pupils dilated beyond biology. Speculative whispers from parallel world theories invade my thoughts. The many-worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, where every decision branches realities. But what if the sun's pause merged branches, letting absences leak through? Mirrors as portals, thin membranes between here and there, where silence reigns eternal. I touch the glass, fingers meeting cold resistance, but the reflection's hand presses back with a subtle warmth, as if drawing heat from my side. The texture shifts under my palm, smooth to rippled, like water frozen mid-wave. Fear arrives in waves, syncing with the pulse's remembered rhythm. I back away, but the shadow follows disjointedly, detaching from my feet to linger on the carpet, a stain of absence. The room feels inverted, temperatures inverting too, the mirror side cooler, drawing chill from the void. I glance outside. The sun climbs normally, photons streaming at 300,000 kilometers per second, but their reflections lie. I grab a flashlight, shine it at the mirror. The beam bounces back dimmer, absorbed partially into geometries that twist the light path. Mythic echoes resound. The Greek Narcissus, drowning in his own image, or Aztec Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror god revealing truths that drive men mad. Perhaps this is revelation, the parallel silence invading, rewriting reflections to show what's missing, the 12 minutes etched into every surface. I experiment further, curiosity battling the rising dread. In the kitchen, I hold a spoon, its concave bowl distorting my face into bulbous angles. The inversion feels wrong, geometries folding inward like the pulse's shapes, pulling at my vision until nausea stirs. The metal is cold, unnaturally so, as if it remembers the dawn's freeze. Shadows from the overhead light cast oddly on the countertop, edges fraying into filaments that pulse faintly, matching the frequency I isolated. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know how reflections hoard secrets, caching voids in their depths. I move to the window, natural light pouring in, but my silhouette on the glass overlays with a fainter echo, a ghost image from a parallel where the sun never resumed. The day progresses, but I remain ensnared in this reflective labyrinth. Sensory details sharpen the horror. The cool slick of glass under fingers, the faint metallic scent of oxidized silver, the silence amplifying every creak of settling house. Fear deepens when I notice outdoor reflections, puddles from the rain mirroring the sky, but the clouds in them are static, unmoving despite the breeze riffling the surface. I crouch, touch the water. It's tepid, but the reflection chills my hand, absence siphoning warmth. People pass by, their images in shop windows lagging, shadows detaching to trail behind like reluctant pets. No one notices. Conversations flow, laughter rings, but I see the invasion, the parallel silence seeping through cracks in reality. Awe emerges then, a profound insignificance that humbles and terrifies. I return home, draw the curtains to dim the light, and sit before the mirror in low glow. The reflection softens, geometries blooming in the dimness, spirals of void that draw the eye inward, infinite regressions where my image recedes into pulse-shaped abysses. The fan's hum provides a sonic anchor, but even it warps in the mirror's audio reflection, if such a thing exists, the sound seeming to emanate from behind the glass. Speculative cosmology posits mirror universes, chiral opposites where time flows backward, entropy decreases. What if the sun's halt was a synchronization point? Reflections now bridges to that anti-realm of quiet order. I whisper to the mirror, voice low and hypnotic, testing the boundary. The lips move in sync, but the sound echoes back delayed, distorted into lower frequencies, geometries modulating the waves. Fear mingles with awe, a cocktail that leaves me breathless, chest tight. The room's temperature gradients shift, warmer near reflections, as if they're radiating inverted cold, absence manifesting as heat. I trace patterns on the glass, fingers leaving trails that the reflection erases prematurely, rewriting history. Evening falls, shadows lengthening into dominance, reflections multiplying in every polished surface. The toaster, the phone screen, even the polished doorknob. Each one hints at the parallel, silences stacking like layers of onion skin. The pulse from before, that static callback, now visualizes in these absences, geometries pulsing subtly in the gloom. I avoid eye contact with my mirrored self, fearing invitation, but curiosity draws me back. In the bathroom again, steam rising anew, the fog clears to reveal not my face, but a starry void, pinpricks of light that aren't our constellations. The night deepens, sensory immersion complete, the velvet touch of darkness, the pulses thrum in veins, reflections whispering cosmic insignificance. Awe prevails, turning fear into reverence for the fragile membrane we call reality. I lie awake, staring at the ceiling mirror I installed years ago for stargazing illusions, now a portal to dread. The geometries unfold there, absences reflecting back the sun's betrayal. The reflections fade as daylight strengthens, but their distortions cling to my periphery like half-remembered dreams, geometries etching faint afterimages on every shiny surface. I force myself outside, the door clicking shut with a finality that echoes the pulse's return in my thoughts. The air is crisp now, laced with the earthy tang of fallen leaves crunching underfoot, their veins mimicking the fractal patterns I've come to dread. The sun hangs higher, its rays warmer, almost insistent, as if compensating for the betrayal. I walk the neighborhood streets, cars whooshing by with exhaust plumes that curl like spectral fingers, but my eyes dart to windows, to chrome bumpers, seeking the lag, the absence. It's subtler now, a whisper rather than a shout, but present, shadows that hesitate before following, reflections that pulse ever so slightly in rhythm with that buried frequency. Curiosity reignites as I return home, drawn back to the laptop like a moth to false flame. The screen awakens with a soft chime, data streams refreshing automatically from solar observatories. The sun's photosphere churns again, granulation cells rising and falling in convective boils, each about 1,000 kilometers across, lasting mere minutes before dissipating. A factual ballet of heat transfer at 5,500 degrees Celsius surface temperature. I overlay yesterday's footage with today's live feed. The resumption is seamless to untrained eyes, but metrics tell another story. Magnetic field strengths, measured in Gauss, spike irregularly post-pause, loops of plasma arcing higher than models predict. I zoom into the chromosphere, where temperatures paradoxically rise to 20,000 degrees Celsius, and spot anomalies, filaments that twist into those same impossible geometries, coiling like living things awakening from slumber. I play the enhanced audio again, the speakers humming to life with that familiar static, a callback to the rooftop dawn and the void's initial hush. The pulse returns stronger now, no longer buried in noise but foreground, as if the sun's restart amplified it. I adjust the equalizer, boosting mid-frequencies, and it resolves into a cadence, rising and falling like breath, each cycle exactly 12 seconds, echoing the halt's duration. The room vibrates gently. The fans were sinking unwittingly, creating a harmonic that raises gooseflesh on my arms. Speculative dread creeps in. What if this is the stirring of a cosmic entity, a Lovecraftian elder thing woven into the fabric of stars, dormant until our sun's brief death roused it? Myths of the Hindu Suryas speak of the sun as a chariot pulled by 7 horses, but in darker Vedas, it's an eye of Varuna, the god of cosmic order, blinking to survey the void's intrusions. Perhaps the pause was its eyelid fluttering, the pulse its awakening gaze turning toward us. Fear builds slowly, a pressure in my temples as the sound fills the space, textures shifting, the air thicker, almost gelatinous, resisting my movements. I pace, floorboards groaning underfoot, but each step feels echoed from behind, as if the parallel silence trails me still. The pulse modulates, incorporating snippets of the geometries from mirrors, visual turned auditory, angles scraping against eardrums like chalk on slate. I glance at the window. The sun's light filters through, but now it carries a tint, a subtle redshift that no prism should allow indoors. My skin crawls, temperature gradients inverting again, warm spots cooling abruptly, as if pockets of void suck the heat away. I imagine the entity beyond the light, vast and formless, its awakening rippling through solar wind at 1 million kilometers per hour, carrying frequencies that rewrite reality's code. The same static from the first night, that frozen dawn, now pulses with intent, probing my senses, seeking entry. I dim the lights, relying on the screen's glow, its blue cast painting the walls in underwater hues. The fan spins on, a futile ward against the encroaching hum, but even its blades seem to slow in sympathy. Sensory immersion deepens. The keyboards clack muted, the coffee's bitterness sharper on my tongue, as if the pulse heightens contrasts while dulling middles. Fear peaks when the live feed glitches, the sun's disk flickering, not with data loss, but with an internal stutter, geometries blooming across the photosphere like bruises on fruit. I freeze, breath shallow, heart pounding against ribs in counterpoint to the rhythm. What if the resumption is temporary, a false dawn before longer darkness? Mythic parallels flood in. The Norse Ragnarok, where the sun is devoured by Skoll, but here it's internal, the entity birthing from within, using the star's fusion core as cradle. Awe overtakes the terror then, an expansive hush that stills my trembling hands. I lean back, letting the pulse wash over me, its waves lapping at consciousness like tides on cosmic shores. The sun resumes fully on screen, prominences looping gracefully, but I sense the undercurrent, the entity stirring, not malevolent but indifferent, a being of pure frequency and geometry, awakening to the universe's symphony. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that stars are nurseries for such things, pulses echoing from Big Bang remnants, entities older than light itself. Speculative physics whispers of dark energy, comprising 68% of the cosmos, perhaps sentient in ways we can't fathom, manifesting through stellar pauses as awakenings. The room feels infinite, walls receding into void. The fans hum a tiny note in the grand chorus. I stand, drawn to the roof again, the stairs creaking like old joints. The afternoon sun beats down, but its warmth feels hollow, a mask over the pulse's cool throb. I align the telescope, eyepiece cold against my socket, and watch the disk. Granules churn, but in the gaps, voids pulse, black geometries against gold, awakening eyes blinking open. Fear lingers in my veins, but awe transmutes it, turning me small against the scale. The wind picks up, carrying scents of distant rain, textures of moisture on skin, grounding the surreal. Below, the city pulses with life, oblivious, but I know, the resumption is illusion, the entity weaving deeper. Night falls swiftly, stars emerging like cautious witnesses. Back inside, The pulse loops on my speakers, softer now, hypnotic. I lie on the couch, cushions yielding with a sigh, and let it lull me. Reflections in the darkened windows show my face overlaid with fractals, absences filling in. The fan whirs faithfully, but its rhythm shifts, aligning with the cosmic beat. Curiosity returns and whispers. What messages does it carry, this awakening voice? I enhance further, uncovering layers, subfrequencies that mimic brainwaves, theta states inducing visions of vast entities uncoiling in stellar nurseries. The hours stretch, sensory details blurring, the cool leather under me, the distant traffic a faint rumble, all subordinated to the pulse. Fear ebbs into acceptance, awe into communion. The sun will rise tomorrow, but changed, its light laced with the entity's gaze. That same static, from dawn's hush through audio voids and reflective silences, now heralds the return, the awakening beyond. The awakening pulses through me now, a constant undercurrent that warps the evening's descent, the sky outside bruising into twilight hues that feel borrowed from a dimmer spectrum. I climb to the roof once more, the stairs groaning under my weight like the universe protesting my ascent, the metal railing cold and slick with evening dew that clings to my palms. The telescope waits, shrouded in its cover, but I don't unveil it yet. Instead, I stand at the edge, the city sprawled below like a neural network of lights flickering to life, each bulb a defiant spark against the encroaching void. The air carries a metallic tang, ozone from distant storms, or perhaps the sun's lingering betrayal, and my breath fogs faintly, curling into shapes that mimic the geometries I've chased through audio and reflections. Curiosity draws me to confront it directly. I remove the cover, the fabric whispering against the tube, and align the eyepiece to the west where the sun dips, its disk a bloated orange now, swollen with secrets. Solar physics anchors me here. The sun sets due to Earth's rotation at 1,670 kilometers per hour at the equator, an illusion of descent painted by axial tilt and orbital mechanics. But tonight, as I peer through, the limb shows irregularities, prominences that shouldn't arc so high, frozen mid-loop as if time stutters again. I adjust the filters, barium sulfate coatings cutting glare, and there, the pulse manifests visually, black veins threading the corona, geometries pulsing in sync with the frequency I've internalized. I record it, the camera's shutter clicking like a metronome, capturing frames where the light bends unnaturally, folding into voids that swallow photons whole. I sit on the gravel, back against the low wall, the roughness biting through my shirt, and let the confrontation unfold. The pulse from the speakers downstairs seems to emanate from the sky itself now, that same static evolving from dawn's hush, through audio voids, reflective absences, and stellar resumptions into this tangible throb. Fear surges in, a tidal pull that tightens my throat, as the geometries resolve sharper, angles that defy pi, curves inverting to infinities, suggesting an entity not just awakening but emerging, birthing through the sun's plasma womb. The wind picks up, chill and directionless, whipping my hair into my eyes, carrying whispers that aren't wind at all but echoes of the frequency, modulating air pressure into tactile dread. I imagine the anomaly spreading, the 12 minutes a mere prelude to eternal halt, where fusion ceases at the core's 15 million Kelvin, and darkness claims all. Sensory assault. The gravel sharp edges under my fingers, the distant hum of traffic fading as if the city senses the confrontation, silencing itself in deference. Speculative terror grips tighter, the entity as a cosmic parasite, drawn from the great attractor, that gravitational anomaly 250 million light-years away, pulling galaxies toward it like moths to flame. Or mythic, the Babylonian Tiamat, chaos dragon slain to form the heavens, but here reborn in stellar guts, her pulse the roar of reformation, unending dread as her coils tighten around our light. I stand, legs unsteady, and shout into the void, voice raw and swallowed by the night, demanding answers from the anomaly. But it responds in pulses, vibrating the telescope tripod, geometries blooming in my vision like retinal burns. Fear crests, a wave crashing over me, leaving me gasping, the roof spinning as insignificance crushes down. Earth a speck, the sun a candle, and I, a mote daring to stare back. Yet awe follows, vast and enveloping, turning the dread into a strange serenity. The sun vanishes below the horizon, leaving an afterglow that pulses faintly, geometries fading into stars that prick the dome above. I lie back, gravel cradling my head like a bed of cosmic dust, and feel the entity's presence not as threat, but as revelation. The stop a gift, a glimpse into the universe's underbelly, where time is illusion, motion a courtesy. I don't think the universe ever meant for us to know that dread is the cradle of existence, unending yet beautiful in its indifference. The pulse sinks with my breath now, inhalations drawing in cool night, air scented with urban exhaust and starlight, exhalations releasing tension into the void. Reflections on the telescope's lens show my face overlaid with constellations, absences filled with light from eons past. The confrontation resolves not in battle, but surrender. I descend the stairs, each step lighter, the house welcoming with its familiar creaks and the fan's eternal hum blending seamlessly with the pulse. In the mirror, my reflection aligns perfectly now, but the eyes hold depths, geometries lurking in pupils like promises of return. The anomaly retreats, but its dread lingers, a quiet companion in the blood. Night deepens, sensory hush descending, the soft tick of the clock, the texture of sheets as I lie down, the pulse a lullaby from beyond. Fear ebbs, awe sustains, the stop revealed as portal to eternal midnight, where light and dark entwine in unending dance. I drift toward sleep, the room a cocoon of shadows, but wakefulness clings, curiosity sated yet hungry for more. The world outside slumbers, oblivious, but I've touched the anomaly, realized its truth. The sun's halt was no accident, but a window cracked open to the void's heart, unending dread seeping through to remind us of our place. The pulse fades to whisper, geometries dissolving into dreams, but the confrontation echoes, a ripple across reality's surface. The pulse softens now, retreating into the background like a tide ebbing from shore, leaving only damp sand and scattered shells as evidence of its passage. I sit in the dim glow of my screen, the fan's hum a gentle constant, stirring the air into cool eddies that brush my skin like forgotten breaths. Outside, the night has settled into a profound quiet, stars drifting overhead in their slow, indifferent arcs, their light a delayed message from depths we can never truly reach. The coffee mug beside me has cooled, its surface still, reflecting the ceiling's faint patterns in miniature voids. Tension unwinds gradually, muscles loosening as if the universe itself exhales, releasing the grip of that 12-minute stasis. The geometries that haunted audio, reflections, and pulses now blur into abstraction, mere echoes in the mind's recesses, no longer sharp but softened, like whispers through fog. I lean back, the chair creaking softly, and let my eyes close, feeling the ambient chill seep in through the window cracks, a reminder of the cosmic cold that blankets everything beyond our fragile warmth. Yet in this fading, a quiet dread persists, not sharp terror, but a lingering unease, like the hum of electricity in walls you only notice in silence. The sun will rise again tomorrow, painting the sky in familiar golds. But what if the halt was merely the first blink, a prelude to longer pauses where the void claims more? The question hangs unanswered, a thread dangling in the dark, pulling gently at the edges of calm. Ambiguity settles like dust, peace mingling with oblivion, the boundary blurred. Perhaps that's the true horror, not the end, but the endless wondering, the stars watching without care. For now, the night holds its breath, and I drift toward sleep, the fan's rhythm a fragile anchor in the vast, tranquil unknown. End of story.